and pleasing. Pleased and pleasing. Those who are pleased with themselves. Those who are pleased with the manner in which they go about their daily life. Those who understand that our relationship with our mates, it is to be based upon, and certainly Friday I mentioned about the Tahid, the oneness of God, but it is to be looked at from the perspective of taqwa. And if I was to say, well, what is this taqwa? It is being regardful, being consciously aware of what it is that God wants us to do. So some will say, well, I should have a desire to have a conscious effort, to have a manner in which I go about my daily life where I'm here to please God. Well, how do we please God? How do we get to a particular point in life where we are pleasing to ourselves? And speaking of the mates, then, if we are looking for a mate simply just to become happy or to gain happiness, you'll never get it. It'll be superficial. If you are looking at a mate, one that will complement your interests, you seeing the worth in this mate, you seeing the wholeness in this mate, you recognizing how this mate can help you become better with yourself, and you help her become better with herself. This is about a union where the two come together as one. So man then, in this evolutionary process, he understands that as there was darkness upon the deep, God says, where he came and he placed upon the face of the water. He placed his spirit upon the face of the water. He touched his spirit. He touched this surface, representing again, stating this in a different way than we did Friday, but yet having the same meaning, but wanting you to see it differently, to encounter what is happening from every angle. So this surface, as we said, this water, representing now looking at it in the terms of a sensitivity, the sensitivity of my skin. And medically, we can look at it that if the top layers of the skin are cut away, and the deeper you go into this structure, there's no pain there unless you strike a nerve, but generally, the top of the skin, it represents a sensitivity, whereas you might feel a little bug, it could be a little tick or whatever, that's crawling on you, it could be even that. But the top surface, the skin, the hair, it will alert you to the fact that something is on your body that is not naturally there. So, here we have this development, this construction, this body being formed. But in order to formulate the body of spirituality, the body of consciousness in terms of finding out how and what it is that we're to do to please God, and how we become informed, how we become whole. Associate with what you know in Scripture, from the Bible, from the Torah, and the Quran, and seeking an understanding as to how you can become whole. And what do these previous scriptures, what do they say about being whole? Well, my mind immediately goes to the point where Jesus told the woman, after touching his garment, say, go, you have been made whole. But he was also pointing to the fact that she had faith in just touching his garment, that she would be made whole. So Jesus told her to go. Now, we want to look at this darkness that was upon the deep, If we look at the lack of understanding, the lack of knowledge that humanity has as a whole, and if we go back to what we said Friday, referencing the salt water or the sea water and the water that is sweet, two bodies of flowing water, two large bodies of water, one salty, the other sweet. But Scripture says from both, you can attain flesh that is pleasant to the taste. If we go to the Scripture in terms of the Bible, Jesus mentioned as to how the salt had lost its savor, its taste. It had lost its taste, but when I look at it in the sense of morality, it says, take this with a grain of salt, a common term, a common slogan that is used, a statement that is used. Tell you what it's telling you to weigh this. It's telling you to look, base your opinion on a body of knowledge. Be structured. There must be some arranged order to assist you in your thinking, in you making a decision. So for the believers, those that have a spiritual aptitude, those that have digested the various forms of religion in the world, putting it all into one big pot, trying to understand what is best, not just for the individual person, but we want to look at community life. I was thinking as I was listening to a lecture a little earlier this morning, and the term was mentioned, defense. And I thought about the Department of Defense. And man, in his earliest beginning, he eventually formed a defense, a defensive strategy. He learned how to not only gauge his surrounding and determine whether or not his surrounding presented a harm to him, but he was able to come up with ways to protect himself from danger. Danger of the elements, the natural world, storms. Man was learning how to protect himself from the storm, and he was frightened. He encountered lightning, he heard the thunder, and he was afraid. Then as time went on, he would hear certain sounds in the sky, he felt. And he would run for shelter because he had saw what the lightning could do to a tree. It could destroy a tree. It could kill a man. So man, now, in talking about that particular defensive mechanism, we have the weather station. They have weather balloons. They have different devices to help man or to warn man when a storm is coming. And some are even looking at and trying to determine when there would be an earthquake. They would see certain signs. And so they have those that are looking for tornadoes in terms of saying how far away the tornado is, how strong the tornado is. Is it 50 miles, 60 mile an hour winds, 120 miles? A warning mechanism. Then when you come to war, we have a defense department. We have a defense department. We have the military. Lines of defense. And the body has a natural line of defense. The person can become ill, and the body has a defense mechanism to fight off these germs. So man learned this by studying nature, the natural world. Man is much more so equipped now in avoiding disaster. But yet when the disaster occurs, man has something in place as to how to assist this body of people, this community of people. Now God has given us a defense mechanism. Naturally, he has placed in us. But those who are part of the salty body, if we look at the salty body, you find the largest creatures, the sea. You find the largest creatures in the water of the salt, in the salty waters. If you look at what is produced from this particular body of water, if I am to gauge, if I'm to use this term saltwater people, then I'm looking at those who are bitter, those who are hoarders of the wisdom. Many think that when they read about mythology, or they look at the history of a people from the beginning, if you mention the Germans, or whatever their names were before they became known as Germans, or the Russians, or those in Ireland, or the Irish people, whatever their ethnic origin is, or their name is now, they had other names before. But if you go back into their history, you will find those that had more knowledge, more wisdom than the average man. And once they learned certain things, they began to hoard for themselves. And you see warriors tribalism, warriors nations that wanted to control and still seek to control the entire earth, to control their next door neighbor, to take the property of the next door neighbor, the following communities or the following countries. And we see this happen. Now, looking at this, if I go back and I look at what is known as paganism, I'm saying to you today that much of the things that occurred where people call it paganism, much of this were ways in which the ruling class, the learned, much of this were tactics that they were implying or they were imposing on the ignorant. They were keeping away the knowledge, but yet they were projecting the knowledge to the people in the forms of symbolism. In the forms of saying, oh, this is a God, that is a God. But those who formulated this on the high level, they knew that this was a way of keeping the masses of people from this knowledge that would make them equal with them. So by them hoarding what was the actual truth, what was the plain truth, by them hoarding this for themselves, they gave the people bits and pieces. And as the people's knowledge increased, they changed the symbolism. They changed the signs. Much of what you see in Egypt, known as hieroglyphics. Much in terms of what you see there in Rome, all of these different pictures. Though the pictures are telling a story, you can't get the benefit of the entire story because you don't have the keys in the Bible. Paraphrasing. It basically mentioned Samson. How Samson has said that you can't understand my riddle unless you are able to plow my heifer. In other words, to take his animal, to take this story and solve his riddle, unless you're able to plow his field. What's in a field? All types of vegetation. But plowing the field, first of all, if any of you know anything about farming, you know you have to bust up the earth. You can take, I can remember standing behind my uncle out in the country as a young child. I'd be holding on to the plow, thinking I was plowing, until he would turn it loose sometime to let me see I can handle that big mule. But the mule, as it pulled the plow, it was busting up the earth. And there you found sometimes hard earth that had to be broken down even further. So Samson was saying, there's a lot that you're going to have to put into this in order for you to understand, as we say today, where I'm coming from. So then, all of these various symbols, all of these various signs, it is saying to you that you're going to have to think deep. But in the depths of this darkness, Almighty God recognized in certain men, and also in women, he recognized that there was a sensitivity for what he had placed in motion. And what he had placed in motion, as man surrendered more so his mind, his consciousness, and went back to his natural origin, went back to his natural state of perception, as the little child is very perceptive. When man goes back to that innocence, unless he ever has babes, it is telling you, look, go back to your original posture. Don't be so hefty in your thinking. Don't be so hardish. Don't be so selfish. So then, knowing this, it mentions as to how there would be a certain man who would appear before the world, and it would appear as though he had been slaved from the foundation of the earth. He looked so bad. And so there were those who turned away from him, not having any idea that this person would possess what is needed for the betterment of all mankind. So this particular sensitivity was found in Jesus. It was found in Muhammad. Those who were innocent, those who were unlettered, those who did not have degrees. Yeah, certainly, Scripture, Bible, Quran, it mentions that we should be highly educated, seek an education from the cradle to the grave. Seek to bring out. Education what? Education comes from the Latin word educo, means to bring out, meaning to bring out. So I'm going to bring out this natural inclination that I have, this natural desire, this appetite that we've been speaking about over a year or so. I'm going to bring it out. I'm going to take it back. I'm going back to my natural state and what I'm hungry for in my naturalness. And I now recognize that there's a power source much greater than anything that I can do or my community can do. Because I see my community, it is not progressing. It's not progressing in the sense in terms of having a civilized society. So then, in formulating this defense mechanism, this defense strategy, I need something to keep me away, going back to my earliest beginning as a man.